that's these films.
You're not going to complete the nun and priest joke?
Up to 40, Rabbi.
Okay, and we are streaming on live, and so I'm going to be putting folks onto mute. And for those who'll be speaking, we'll invite you to unmute yourself. I'm so glad everyone could join us. I'm Rabbi Eric Polikoff of B'nai Israel in Southbury. If we look ahead on the secular calendar, February is Jewish Disabilities Awareness and Inclusion Month. And here we are on Erev February, getting ready for the month with this special program by B'nai Israel in collaboration with the Jewish Federation of Western Connecticut, JNF, the Jewish National Fund, and by the Israel Defense Forces. The best setting for viewing our program today is to put your Zoom into the speaker setting. And so if you haven't done so, we do invite you to do so. I'm delighted to introduce the chair of our Israel Advocacy Committee, Hadar Lubin.
Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this important meeting. The Israel Advocacy Committee sponsored the numerous programs in the past that really underscores the shared value between the United States and Israel, and really celebrate the importance of the bond between the two countries as an investment for both. Today, I'm also very excited that the naming of the program includes New Zionism that really highlights and captures the essence of Zionism, which is a dynamic construct that is changing as the needs are changing, and it is as inclusive as it was in its inception. So I'm very pleased to welcome you all, and I hope you will find that program as exciting as I did. Thank you.
And we invite Gary Jones, who is the director of the Jewish Federation of Western Connecticut, our co-partner.
Thank you, Rabbi. First, on behalf of the Jewish Federation of Western Connecticut, I would like to thank Rabbi Eric Polikoff, B'nai Israel, and its Israel Advocacy Committee for inviting us to work with them and JNF in this special in uniform program. I would also like to thank the Jewish Federation's President, Pauline Zimmerman, and Kathy Conti, our events and programs coordinator, for working with the IAC to bring this program to you. We are grateful to our friends from the Jewish National Fund for providing our community with the opportunity to learn about this really noble effort on behalf of the IDF. Special in Uniform serves as an example of Israel's ongoing effort to be a world leader in creating a more just, a more compassionate, and a more inclusive society. My last thank you goes to the IDF for creating this amazing opportunity for Israelis with special needs and for safeguarding Israel and thereby keeping Jews everywhere safe. As some of you may have seen, in the beginning of January, the Jewish Federation released a set of secular New Year's resolutions to give our community an idea of the Federation's priorities and to set standards that we as a Federation intend to work toward achieving. One of the priorities embodied in the resolutions is to increase Israel programming. The U.S.-Israel relationship is central to the safety and security of Israel and to the safety and security of Jews in this country and around the world. We know that the relationship between the U.S. and Israel is under attack in any number of ways in our country. We know that too many college campuses have become increasingly difficult for Jewish students and other supporters of Israel. And we know that on any number of campuses, supporters of Israel are too often uncomfortable demonstrating that support. We have come to recognize that some people in our country simply don't understand Israel and are susceptible to the narrative that Israel is the big oppressive bully in the Middle East, and therefore not worthy of support from the United States. If these myths are not confronted, they will grow, become more powerful, and will ultimately threaten the strong relationship that is so beneficial to both countries. So your federation is committed to spreading the truth about Israel's humanity and the value that Israel brings to the world. Your federation will also work hard to educate our Jewish community and our friends and neighbors that although Israel is certainly subject to criticism, all too often that criticism experienced by Israel is manifestly unfair and at times simply hateful. These are not easy discussions to have, but they are necessary. So you can count on the Federation to continue to work with B'nai Israel and others to stand up for Israel and to work to maintain our country's support for Israel. And we will do that proudly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. I'm delighted to introduce Dan Goodman.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone who's come to join us. I am, I guess, at the junction of all these organizations. I've recently joined as a board member of the Jewish National Fund Southern New England Board. And I'm happy to introduce our speaker. Dar Nadler is Jewish National Fund's Israel emissary to New England and the Capital District of New York. Dar was born and raised in a kibbutz in the north of Israel, served in the IDF, and graduated from Tel Aviv University with a master's degree in public administration and conflict resolution. She has dedicated her entire professional career to the State of Israel. She was CEO of Blue White Future, a prominent Israel political NGO established and led by the former head of the Israeli Shin Bet. Prior to that, she served as a senior advisor in the Ministry of Defense during former Prime Minister Ehud Barak's tenure as minister, and she has worked for the Jewish National Fund for the past 2.5 years and is currently based in Boston. So it is my pleasure and privilege to introduce Dar, who led in the creation of today's program and is instrumental in renewed efforts for sustaining the connection between America and the State of Israel.
Thank you, Dan. That's I don't think I'm all these things, but thank you for saying that. And hello to everybody. And I'm so happy to see such a great participation. It only assures us that this kind of contents are something that people are eager to have and to learn and to hear about. So as Dan said, I'm the Israel emissary here in New England. I'm not the keynote speaker though here today. I will soon enough will introduce you the keynote speaker, which will be Lieutenant Colonel Tiran Atiyah. But first, I just wanted to briefly address and to give us a context to everything we are doing here today. So it's no wonder that, like Dan said, that we kind of joined together recently. We feel, and I feel in Jewish National Fund, we feel it for many years now, for even decades, that there is this hunger among American Jewry and among the Israeli side to kind of launch in a more meaningful connection and bond, so to speak. So we all kind of feel and know, and some of us are even articulating to ourselves, but think that maybe others don't see it, that things have changed. And today's connection and relationship between Israel and American Jewry is not what it used to be, for better and for worse. And when we come to speak about Zionism, for instance, we all think, hang on, what is this thing? And why do we even need it anymore? Because Zionism used to be the notion of making Aliyah to Israel and inhabit the land of Israel physically. Now it's not, and now people are asking, okay, so Israel is a done deal. It's flourishing, it's secure, it's a fact. It's there, it exists. It's all allegedly it's all good, right? So why do we even need to speak about in terms of Zionism anymore? So Jewish National Fund came up with the concept, I would say, and we're not alone here, I have to say, right? But Jewish National Fund is what I think unique us is that we kind of found the way to execute what we call new Zionism. And new Zionism would be the adjustment of the traditional Zionism to these days. Meaning today, well, you won't hear from us that you have to make Aliyah to Israel or you have to come and inhabit the land physically. Of course, Israel would always be the safe haven for all Jews, and hence the right of return by law and all those things that I'm sure you guys are aware of. But it's more, I would say, complicated and unique than that these days. So we try to find a way in which American Jewry, who are happy and are very comfortable living in America, still be in connection to the state of Israel. And we ask ourselves, how can we make you feel more belong and feel like part of the process of the Israeli course, right? So, because again, it's not about educating anyone to do whatever, to do this or that. It's about finding ways, finding creative ways in which still American Jewry and the state of Israel and Israelis can still maintain an adjustable bond in these days where, again, making Aliyah is not something that is absolutely required. So in Jewish National Fund, what we do is that we are offering to Jews all over the world, especially here in America, probably the opportunity to be involved and to be influential on the direction that the state of Israel is going, but also at the same time, not interfere in the political process. So if you can think about it, that's really a privilege to have, because you get to be involved, you get to feel belong, you get to decide all kinds of things of where you want to get more engaged with in all kinds of our projects that Jewish National Fund is doing, mainly in the south and the north of the state of Israel. But then again, you're not interfering, quote unquote, and you're not being political, quote unquote. So I think that what's the message that is important for me to convey today, before we will dive in and learn just one of our many projects that Jewish National Fund is doing today in Israel, is to kind of give the context that in which here in America, people who do still care about Israel and feel some sort of Zionism or new Zionism, if you will, can find it very easily to execute and express your thinking, your thoughts, your desires, your concerns, and everything in between through Jewish National Fund. So before turning it to Ran, so I wanted to say that, like Rabbi Polkov said, this event could not have come in a perfect timing, since this month we are starting the Jewish Disability Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month. And this month, observed every February, is an effort to unify the entire Jewish organizations, which is a noble attempt, I can tell you this, to raise awareness and foster inclusion of people with disabilities and those who love them. In Israel, just so you know, there are over 1 million people who have some form of disability that makes them struggle with life's daily activities. So in Jewish National Fund, not only we think we can, but we think we must ensure that each and every Israeli enjoys a life of dignity, belonging, and a purpose. So in addition to Special in Uniform that you will hear in a few minutes, JNF is also supporting and greatly invested in other ventures and other endeavors in the field, such as Adi Negev, which is a state-of-the-art institution for people in all ages with severe disabilities that really don't have any other place they can be treated. So that's one of our probably one of our biggest ventures in this field. We also are working tirelessly in a project to access nature to people with special needs so they can hike just as any one of us would. And we also have therapeutic, horse riding, and so many more projects. So just so you know, Jewish National Fund alone is matching every single gift that is going towards any of these special needs projects and the special need field. We are matching it up to $1 million during the course of the month of February. And I'll put some information on the chatter here soon, so you guys can see that for yourself. Now, I would be very happy to introduce you to our keynote speaker today. Lieutenant Retired Tiran Atiyah serves as the Director of Special in Uniform, an innovative program sponsored by Jewish National Fund that aims to integrate young people with autism and other disabilities in the IDF and in turn into the Israeli society. Over the course of his distinguished 28-year career in the Israeli Defense Forces, Lieutenant Colonel Atiyah commanded a tank, the IDF's Technology and Logistics Forces Training Program, and the SAREL program for Army volunteers from around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lieutenant Colonel Tiran Atiyah.
Okay, shalom lekulam. For you, it's a good evening. At my place, it's almost good night. So I'm very, very happy to be here today. Thank you, Dar, Rabbi, and Daniel, and all of those who invited me to this session. Now as Dar said, I served 28 years in the Army. And now I'm back in the Army fighting the pandemic of the COVID-19. I'm in charge of delivering food rations for those who are isolated at home or sick due to the corona. And personally, I'm very sad that I heard that two very good friends of mine, which I adopted 2 weeks ago, one of them passed away because of the corona. They went to the hospital and he didn't make it. So please, I beg you all, follow the regulation, put mask, do not go to places unnecessary. And if you are going to, take all the precaution needed, because this pandemic is pandemic. And no one can light up with it because it can come from nowhere. So please follow the regulation according to your places. But we came to talk about more pleasant and more happy things. So Special in Uniform. Special in Uniform is a program that enables people with special needs to become part of the Israeli Army. And probably you ask yourself, what does the Army need to do with people with special needs? So before I start talking about Special in Uniform, it's very important to talk about the foundations of the values that the Army is counting on them. The first one is be loyal and love your country. The second one is V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, human dignity. Everyone must respect the other as a human being. This is why in our army, we have all kinds of soldiers. And more than that, the army is not only protecting its citizens and its the people that are in the country. It's more than that. It has an educational values in it. because the remainder of people at the age, from the ages 18 to 21 goes through the army, and as a policy of the government, from the first one till the one that is now, the idea is to educate during those 3 years the soldiers to become a better citizens, much more compassionate to the others, and this is why we see people with special need in the army. And more than that, at the age of 16, every citizen in Israel getting a certificate that says, prepare yourself till 2 years from now, at the age of 18, you are going to be part of the Israeli army. 3 years or 2 years for ladies, you are going to serve wherever duty called, you are going to be there. So even you know at the back of your head that if you will go to fight or to be in a combat, you can lose your life, which means that this is a huge responsibility that the army put on their citizens. But since Israel is the people army, the IDF is the people army, it accepts all kinds of people from the state of Israel, which means that people from Kiryat Shmona, which is in the north, will serve with people from Tel Aviv, Dimona, Eilat, all countries, and also people whom are not Jews. The Druze are part of the army like all the others. Bedouins from the south and also from the Negev are serving in the Israeli army. And now we see a lot of Christians that are serving, and we see a growth of numbers that Arab from Arab villages are being inducted to the army. As for now, the numbers are not huge, but we see growth. And it is very important to know that Israel, the IDF, sometimes it's been, let's say, introduced as an occupying one, as the one that doesn't care about human life. Know that we have all kinds of, the Gauss bell works on every community, and I can tell you that as a policy of the army, human dignity and human life is the virtue, and no matter who it is. So as I said, at the age of 16, you are getting a certificate that says, prepare yourself, a letter from the army with the logo of the army, with the logo of the state of the Ministry of Defense, that says, prepare yourself, 2 years from now, you are going to be part of the Israeli army. And unfortunately, till recently, people with special needs getting the same letter, but in a totally negative perspective that says, find a place for you at the age of 18, you are not going to be part of. So think of twins, that one of them is, let's say, autistic, and his brother is typical, and he is going at the age of 18 to the army. His brother, what will become of him for the following 3 years? And it is a huge challenge for a family to tell the one you are not going to be part of and the other is. So we established or initiated a program, that the program is specially uniform, that it has 3 phases. The first phase, one thing before I talk about the actual program, every 2 kids at the age of 16, 17, and 18, and my son is going to be inducted next month, the first question that they are talking about or they're asking one another is, what are you going to do in the army? And people with special needs have no answer for that. And afterwards, when you graduate, the first question that pop up between 2 Israelis, what did you do in the army? And you find a mutual acquaintance, and suddenly you are starting to talk. Hadar is nodding in her head. I see that she understands what I mean. All of the Israelis know exactly what I mean. So it's similar. I don't know if it's the same, someone told me like, which college you went to? Which college you went to? What did you graduate? So this is the only thing that I can similar to. But the idea is that in Israel, the army is a crucial phase in life that says it's some kind of a certificate that I'm okay. And if you are going to apply for a job, simply to apply for a job, the first questions that pop up, what did you do in the army? And according to that, if you are saying that you did not go at all to the army, it has, let's say, a different taste. But if you will say, I was served in that and that, they will know that they can count on you. They know that you know what is the meaning of discipline. So people with special need had, till recently, a huge wall to cross or to jump over, and we made it easier for them. So we initiated a 3-phase program. First, we say that you are welcomed. We are not saying no almost to no one. And we are trying at first to analyze each one's ability. The idea is that everyone has an ability. We think that every creation of God has some kind of an ability that he can give. Afterwards, they are coming to the army with those talents that we find. We are trying to make mix match with the army, even though if he can be an apprentice to the cook or an apprentice to the mechanic, everyone has something to give. After a while, when we see that there is a serious bond between the army, the commander, and the guy or the lady, we are starting to the process of inducting them to the army like all other soldiers, which means that they will have an army card ID that will say, I am an Israeli IDF soldier, like all the others, like the pilot, like the parachuter, like the Golani Brigade soldier, like everyone else. Through all that period of time, our social worker, psychologists, and guide and mentors are satelliting them in a way that we know that they are protected, but during that time, they are learning life skills. Those life skills are meant to be used after graduation. And then at the age of 21, when they are graduating, 21 or 22, each one according to his plan, they are asking us, now what? So we initiate the 3rd phase of Special in Uniform, trying to find jobs for them at the Israeli labor market, which means that according to what they learned for the last 4, 5, or 6 years, now we are trying to implement those talents, those skills in the Israeli labor market. Side by side with that, we built group homes. The big ones are for approximately 14 to 16 graduates, and the small one, even for couples that are going to get married, still they are being guided by Special in Uniform guides. In this very, very special month, the Jewish Acceptance Month, or the initiate, I don't know what about you, the American, you love initials. In the army, I had so many initials, but nevertheless, Jewish Acceptance something months. So anyhow, in this very, very special, we are trying really to upgrade or uplift everything about people with special need. And I can tell you, we are talking about light to the nation. Israel is, I don't know, maybe one of the first countries to have our startups all over. But we are talking about really social startup, which means that this social startup maybe start in Israel, but it doesn't stop in Israel. So I don't know if you know, there is a guy that was nominated by the Trump administration to be the liaison between the People with Special Need Association and the government. And they took our model of inducting people to the army, and try to implement it in places like it was started in South Carolina and also in Virginia, West Virginia, and it was a tremendously success. I was asked to introduce the program in the Admiral John Rice or something in San Diego last March, but unfortunately the COVID-19, we can plan whatever we want, but the COVID-19 is stopped us from doing it. We started with Zoom, but it was not so successful by Zoom because you have to feel you have to feel the people, you have to feel, for the first two groups that we initiated, or we gave them our model, I sent my social worker and psychologist to accompany them to all the process, and to do it by Zoom, it's not the same. But when we are talking about Startup Nation or any kind of social startup, this is totally startup, and we see that it does tremendously virtue. There is a huge added value for not only for the kids, it's also for their families. Think of the moment that the doctor came after evaluation of the kid or the girl, and he said, look, your son is not like the others, and you are going to be in a very, very challenging life. And you know, up at the end of the tunnel, they did not see the light. But at the age of 18 or 19, when we, especially in uniform program, gave them the ability to wear uniform, to be like all the others, well, one of the mothers told me, Tiran, 12 or 16 years ago, when the doctor came, my dreams about normal life exploded. Was not like what I dreamt. And now I believe that my daughter can be like all the others. I taught her to be like all the others, and now I feel that she can be like all the others. I can continue to talk about special in uniform, but I prefer now that you will see a short clip, and you will have some kind of a wrap up of what I said, what I talked about till now. Dar bevakasha.
הם היו במסגרות של חינוך מיוחד, הרגישו תחושה של כישלון, ובעצם הפרויקט הזה מאפשר להם להגיע לצבא, לתרום, לתת מעצמם, כמו כולם.
אני מנקה קשיות לערכות מגן. אני מכינה סוללות, ואני גאה שאני פה. ממש גאה שאני פה.
אנחנו לא עושים הנחות בגלל שהם שונים. הם שווים בין כולם. ואני גאה להיות חלק מהמערכת המדהימה הזאת, שגורמת לנו להיות חברה יותר טובה.
הם אוכלים איתנו בחדרי אוכל, הם עובדים איתנו בעבודות, תורמים לכל דבר ועניין בדיוק כמו כל חייל רגיל.
ולאט לאט הם הופכים להיות חלק בלתי נפרד מהיחידה, וביחידה מחכים כל יום שהם יגיעו.
אנחנו פה לוקחים את המחשבים ומפרקים אותם לחלקים.
לעבוד פה זה הכי טוב שיכולתי לבקש.
חלק מהפרויקט זה טירונות שעוברים שבוע ימים, לחלקם זה פעם ראשונה שיוצאים מהבית.
עושים טירונות, מלמדים אותם על ערכי צה"ל, טיולים בארץ, הכרת הארץ, בעיקר שמירה על כבוד האדם.
מסע קומטה, גדולים במדים יוצא לדרך!
לא מאמינה שאני עושה את זה. זה גאווה לצאת, אז אני הולכת בזה עם ראש למעלה. חיכיתי למסע הזה, אני אזכור את זה לכל החיים. קשה להאמין, חיכינו הרבה זמן לרגע הזה, ואני שמחה שהצלחנו. הפרויקט הזה הוא ברכה, הוא ממש מתנה בשביל הילדים האלה. סוף סוף עשיתי את זה!
התרגשות גדולה שספיר הצליחה לעמוד במסלול הזה של שביל ישראל, שהיא תקבל היום קומטה.
אני חיכיתי 22 שנה לרגע הזה, והנה הרגע הזה הגיע.
I think that I saw this clip almost 3 or 4 times and more than that, and each time it excites me and it's so moving and it's so genuine. And I can tell you this clip is 6 years old, but still it is heartbreaking to see the power of people with special need, the power of the program, the power of what people wants to see and what people wants to be. And when they reach their target, the sky is not the limit anymore. If you heard carefully, one of the mothers said that she waited 22 years for that moment. I talked about the moment that the doctor said to the mother, look, your son is not like the others. And she waited 22 years from a moment that she would ever, never dreamt that this is going to happen. So this is the IDF. This is special in uniform. And what is so special in the IDF and in Israel, that there is room for everyone. When I say everyone, I mean everyone. In the fabric, in the carpet or the puzzle of the state of Israel, you can find new immigrants, you can find old immigrants, you can find Bedouins, you can find Arabs, you can find also working Maghreb, those who came from Africa, immigrants, sorry, thank you. They came and, you know, they came to seek for a job. What all of us wants to improve our way of life. Some of them were persecuted because of something in their own country. And the state of Israel, despite all the challenges that we have, still find a place for everyone. And recently there was a law for, I don't know what is the percentage of people who were immigrated without citizenship, that if they were in Israel from day one, I don't know what is the regulation, they can serve in the Israeli army and get an ID, and Israeli ID, which is tremendously precedent for the state of Israel, which means that, I don't know, a lot of people talk unnicely about Israel because of so many things. And I can tell you, we are not the Talit Shekulat Chelet. We are not the, I don't know, all pure. We have our mistakes. We are a young country, 72 years only, but still, what we built in this 72 years, it's beyond anyone that can believe that despite all the wars that we had, all the challenges that we had, immigrants from all over the world. Just the recent 20 years, we've got more than 20% of our population growth because of an immigration. So still, the state of Israel standing, and by the way, we are #1 in vaccinating, and this couldn't be happened without the strong nation or the strong survivor kit that the Jews have the Israeli as a Jew country or the Jewish and democratic country has, and still we have a place for everyone. And when I talk about everyone, I said it before in my program. How long do I have? Dar? Yeshli? Okay, one short story. We got in Kfar Saba a school that people with special need, and they are at the 12th grade and they are coming to the army. And some of the kids are from Kalamswa, the nearest Arab city that is near Kfar Saba, and they are learning there. So one of the days we took the kids to work at the army, and I saw two names that are typically Arabs, and I asked, who are those? And they said they are students at the school. Some commander made some kind of a fuss about, they are not serving in the army, it's not. And I said, look, they are part of that group. Either you take all of them or do not take none of them. So at first it was tough, but at the end you can see that they are soldiers like anyone else. And one of them is the son of the Imam of Kalamswa, which means that special in uniform can be also bridge to coexistence. And this is what we did. One of the time we took all the commander of that base to the Imam, to the mosque, to learn about the culture of the Arab in Israel. And there was so much to learn. I was there, and I can tell you, I am a graduate also of a Middle East Affairs BA, and I learned, this is from the field, not from the academy, and I learned so much about the Arab culture. So, especially in uniform, maybe it's a program that some talk about it, but I can tell you that we are changing the face of the state of Israel in a way that people with special need will have and will have some more place in the Israeli society. No more backyards. I don't know if you know that, but 25 years ago, which is not so long ago, people with special need were put in mental institutes. And I'm not saying because of bad people, only because of ignorance. I think it's only ignorance, because I don't believe in quality of human being. I think this was only because of ignorance, and now we can see them everywhere, in the grocery stores. When I talked about the third phase of special in uniform, we are finding jobs for them at the Israeli labor markets, which means that everyone has a talent, which this talent, the skills that they learned, are being implemented afterwards at the work of the place at the place that they're working in. And when we are talking about autism, at the last 10 years, autism has been researched, and we found out, probably you know about the Rain Man movie, the guy which is brilliant, but he is autistic. So there is a unit in Israel that specialize in talented boys and girls that can be used, their talent can be used for so many things. And more than that, they can focus in one specific map for endless hours. They are not taking any kind of breaks. They are so virtuous, or there are so many good things that the autism or special need has. Just pay attention. Just pay attention for that, for those, I don't know, if someone is very, very clean or very, very tidy, take him to the warehouse. This is what we are doing. We have Sapir. Do I have another story to tell? Another time to story, or shekvar lo? Okay, making very, very, very long story short, Sapir worked at the warehouse. One day she found out that there is a fuss in the warehouse that she worked in, And she came and she asked, what are you doing? Why is this that fast? And everybody was ignoring her because what can you offer us? At the end of the day, she came to the commanding officer and told him, look, there is a chart that I see every day, and one of the chart is not like it was the same, like it was yesterday. Please check it. So making very, very long story short, they checked it at that place that she showed. They went to the shelf and it was not there. It was one at the left side of it, and they found a component of the helicopter that was supposed to go to an operational activity. $200,000 she saved. So everyone has a talent, and we have to, and we must, it's not have to, we must find those talent and take it to the place and respect the one that has those talents. And even if he don't have a talent, if he doesn't have a talent, still they can wear uniform like all the others. They can do things like all the others. So there is another short clip about Special in Uniform, the summary of 2020, which I can tell you that was a very, very challenging year for us. And bevakasha.
Special in Uniform, Year in Review 2020. Special in Uniform is concluding another record-breaking year. Despite COVID-19, we are continuing full force and making an impact within the Israeli community. We couldn't have done it without the support of so many of you. Here are just some of our favorite moments of the year. Special in Uniform continued to operate in 36 IDF bases across Israel. So far, 900 soldiers serve in the IDF as part of the Special in Uniform program.
Inclusiveness is the key word. And here we are today with all of our wonderful Special in Uniform soldiers, one of our very amazing special projects that we have done with JNF.
We started the year under the leadership of the Jewish National Fund Task Force on Disabilities. As the pandemic broke out in Israel, our soldiers were summoned to the Ministry of Health's warehouse to facilitate the preparation, packing, and delivery of the COVID-19 testing kits. The pandemic did not stop us, and 20 volunteer soldiers have been promoted this year to become regular soldiers and receive the official IDF ID card like everybody else.
I cannot tell you how proud we are to see these 7 soldiers standing here. Really epitomizes everything that JNF stands for, that when people say, no, something can't be done, this is the example of the people that go above and beyond to make the impossible possible.
That was a very precious, meaningful moment. And perhaps the story of the year belongs to Itai Kaufman. This young man with autism cracks codes in IDF top secret cyber unit.
Today I feel special because I'm no longer a volunteer, I'm a soldier now. My message is that you can do anything.
Itai has a remarkable talent like no others, and we're honored to serve with him, and we're learning each day something new from his point of view.
We'd like to thank the Jewish National Fund for building 2 centers for our Special in Uniform soldiers in Tel Nof Air Force Base and the Arad Home Front Command Base.
Coming here and seeing their new unit, the room where they can come and relax and enjoy and feel like every other soldier on this base.
We are very proud and very excited to be here today with this amazing facility for our special soldiers in uniform.
President of Israel, Reuven Rivlin, honored Liron Nathan, outstanding soldiers with disabilities, congratulating her on her devotion and hard work.
אנחנו גאים בך.
We continue to open doors for people with hearing impairments and make the Army accessible for all. Thank you, Rita and Bert Tansky. We are already working towards our goals of 2021, including a new musical program. Stay tuned. But now, it's time to say thank you. We are grateful for the partnership and support of the Israeli government, the IDF, the Israeli companies who joined us this year, JNF USA, and the Israeli Society. And thanks to dozens of partners who adopted soldiers of the program this year, you have made all the difference. We thank you, our dear friends and partners, for standing together with us in our work to provide young people with disabilities with the opportunity to be integrated into Israeli society in meaningful ways.
You are all role models for us. God bless you. God bless the state of Israel. And God bless the United States of America.
Special in Uniform.
Before I end, I would like to really, there is no words in the Israeli or the American vocabulary to thank the JNF for making the impossible possible. Thank you, Dar. Thank you, all the Connecticut people that I don't want to unmention no one. So it couldn't have happened without the support of the JNF, which 6 years ago, they came to see something else totally during the Advantage. And at that moment, history was made, but history is yet to come. So I cannot really thank enough the JNF for the opportunity and believing in us in a way that we are now making the impossible possible for people with special needs. And as I said, we are not differentiating no one. Really, we are not differentiating no one. Our doors are open. The IDF, we changed the way that the IDF, the commanders are talking about people with special needs. So, and I will conclude with one idiom that the chain is defined by the weakest one. And we are the stronger one must strength gave more strength to the weak one. So thank you for listening. I hope that I was interesting, and thank you so much. Toda rabba, and thank you all. If there are questions, I will be more than happy to answer.
Fantastic. And thank you. That was such a beautiful presentation and totally inspiring. I know that there were so many moments that I was tearing up at how beautiful this was. And looking around, I see others as well. We do want to have an opportunity to ask questions of Tiran or of Dar. I would ask that using the chat function here, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen, using the chat function, please chat to Daniel Goodman, your question. Dan will be sorting through those questions and in such a way so that we'll be able to direct them best to Tiran and to Dar. Our first question, Tiran, are you in touch with graduates of the program after they served? And if so, tell us about sort of the next steps. I know that you mentioned that there is a place for them after, and after that, in terms of the program, what have you seen that way?
Our graduate, we are talking about special in uniform as a Hotel California. You can check in whenever you want. We don't want you to leave. This is the general idea, which means that when they are graduating, we are trying to find jobs for them at the Israeli labor market. Even if we are not, let's say, finding jobs for them, still we are in contact with them all the time to see that we have, it's not a working agency, but it's some kind of And you know, I don't know if you know, Israel, there is a law in Israel that each governmental company or a company that wants to work with, to make contracts with the government must have 3% of their employee someone with special need. And I'm not talking about broken finger. Broken finger is not a special need. So we are getting inside that crack. It's very tough because it's very early time, because a lot of employers are having those people with special need as a nice to have. We don't want that to happen as a nice to have. We want them to be an integral part of the system, integral part of the company. So when we find out that he is some kind of a poster for a PR, we are trying another place, or giving the employer an opportunity to work side by side with. One of the graduates that we are still in contact with him, he is living in one of our compounds, our group homes. He's very, very talented, and he's working at high-tech startup in Israel about artificial intelligence, and they are teaching the computers things in order for projects like in the summer, there are a lot of drowning of young kids. So they are teaching the computers what is the meaning of a pool, a young kid, for example. And there is an alert, and our kids, the 3 kids of ours are working at Axon Vision and doing it instead of sending it to China or to Philippines or whatsoever. So we are in contact with most of them. We have now more than 300 graduates, and we have someone that focus on those who graduate.
Our next question, are the Haredi participating in Special in Uniform?
Look, this is a very, very great question. Since the Haredi cannot typically go to the army, and at first someone said, look, they are going to send and I'm using an unnice word, they are going to send to your program, they're retarded. And I said, no, they are exceptionals. And we have 2 groups in Kiryat Malachi that have a full support of their rabbis, and we are welcoming. They are more than welcome. Like I said, like the Bedouin, like the Druze. By the way, in the clip, if you saw Tamer Tuba, he is from the Druze community. We are, as I said, we are not differentiating no one. If someone wants to come, to wear uniform, to be part of this, the IDF, which in Israel, as I told you before, this is an establishment. This is a huge place to be in. So we are more than happy to have 2 groups. And if it will open, we are open. We are not differentiating no one by the color of his hat or the color of his skin or whatsoever. So for sure, yes.
Our next question, do those in service receive payment as soldiers? Do they also receive pensions or health insurance or any other compensatory coverage after they retire? And at what age? And also a related question, do the graduates return for future service?
So, as I said, they are like the all other soldiers, which means that during their service, they are getting a salary, they are getting a full medical insurance. After they are graduating the army, everyone for his own. He is paying his own. So he started to work. So from that work that he's going to work in, but there is also an insurance from the government. So the government is not leaving them alone. So they are part of the health insurance of the state of Israel. During their service, they are fully covered by the IDF.
Another question, are all Israeli students with special needs integrated with typical peers as they receive their primary education from the earliest years?
No. There are some that are very low functioning that are in the special schools, but all of those who wants to be, or their parents wants for them to be integrated in a typical groups or typical classrooms, they are entitled to, and they have a chaperone or someone to work with them one-on-one. So it means that if there are two kids with special need in a room, the government pay for the two assistants for them 24/7. No, 24, not 7/5 during their time in the classroom.
Do they have to retire from the Army after a certain age?
Yes, they have to, because we don't want the Army to become some kind of a shelter. The Army is not a shelter. The Army is a place for them to learn life skills, to be like all the others. And you cannot imagine that someone at the age of 25 or 40, maybe physically is 35 or 40, and mentally is 15 or 16 or 17. And it doesn't mix with soldiers at the ages of 18 and 31. So we don't want to have those conflicts. So at the age of 25 or 26, we are some kind of recommending them to find another place in the Israeli labor market. This is the concept of special in uniform, because it's not a sheltered home. The idea of special in uniform, as I said, is integrating, inclusive, in being inclusive, but it's not replacing the daily life at the end.
Another question, I know you've addressed this, but I guess slightly more specificity. Can you describe your success rate in IDF and with job placement after? I know you said it's tough, but
as for those who are getting the Army card ID, we have almost 50%, which is a huge number. I can tell you that we've got now more than 250 that went through all the process and got an Israeli card ID at the last 6 years. And as for jobs, it's much more challenging. And the problem with the COVID now, it's made us think very, very, very thinking out of the box how we are doing it. And we some kind of taking jobs from companies and doing it in our sheltered home. So they will have something to do and they will get paid. So we are trying to think always out of the books. As for now, they are working in capsules because we don't want them to be infected by the corona. But so we took jobs from companies, simple ones as for now, and those who can work with the computers, working with computers.
Question came in about combat. Do special needs groups experience hand-to-hand combat?
From me.
No, they are not trained to. They are not trained to. They are not meant to. We don't want to put any one of them in hazard or in a place of any kind of danger. Nevertheless, none of them is in a combat, period.
And I guess, again, I know you said used 900, I saw in the film. How big is the unit?
Okay. First of all, it's a mistake. It's 500, not 800. I don't know,
okay.
Maybe in the translation or something. So ask again, please. I lost my last line of.
Okay, and actually, this will be our last question. How many are in the unit?
Okay. The whole idea of special in uniform, the principle is that there is no specific unit. We want them to be integrated in a typical units all over the army. So when they start, the groups are between 12 to 20, but after a time, we took one and we see that he is specialized in cooking. So we will go to the kitchen. Some of them has a keen for gardening. So we will go for gardening. Some of them has the keen for computers. We will go to computers. And at the end, we are starting with 12 to 20. At the end, the group is 0. There is no group anymore. The whole idea of inclusiveness or inclusion It's not to segregate them in one place. The whole idea is that they will be included in any place that can be.
So Tiran and Dar and all of our partners and Dan, looking at Tiran, looking at the background, Gedolim, which is greatness. And so this is such a great program. It's so aptly named in Hebrew as well as in English. And we thank you so much for joining us. We wish you, there it is. It certainly is Erev Tov, getting closer to Laila Tov in Israel. We thank you so much. And Dar and JNF, we thank you so much. Everybody who joined us today, what a wonderful and inspiring day. And as we head into the month of February, we have a lot to be proud of. So thank you again. We see how your values are effectuating the ongoing work of Tikkun Olam. We thank you for your commitment, and we'll see everybody again real soon. Bye-bye now.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
טירן.
כן.
קוראים לי תקווה. אני מירושלים. ממש נגע לליבי. כבר הרבה זמן לא הייתי שם, אבל באמת בזמני היה מאוד קשה לאנשים עם צרכים מיוחדים. בתור אימא לילדה כזאת היום, זה כל כך כיף לראות. תודה.
בשמחה. ויש לנו תוכנית, דרך אגב לא דיברתי על זה, אבל יש, for those who stayed, we have a program from abroad, from people with special needs from abroad that wants to make some kind of a taste of the army. We are giving them the opportunity to wear uniform, to be part of, to walk side by side with the other soldiers, so they will feel some kind of chayalim. So Tikva, you have an open invitation whenever.
In 8 years.
8 years? I will be there. I promise you, I will be there.
You're married. Yeah. Thank you. Take care.
Wonderful. Thank you.
For Bridal.